Iryna Zarutska was stabbed to death on the rail system in Charlotte, North Carolina by a savage career criminal. Surveillance video of the killing was finally released to the public. It shows the alleged killer, Decarlos Brown Jr., pull out a knife, get up from his seat behind Iryna, and prepare to thrust a blade into her neck before the released footage gets cut. This is pure evil on full display. The most enraging and unacceptable part of this story is that her death was entirely preventable. Decarlos Brown never should have been on that train that night. In fact, he should have been behind bars.
A North Carolina man has been indicted on federal charges in the fatal stabbing of a young Ukrainian woman on a Charlotte light rail train. 34-year-old Decarlos Brown Jr. faces a charge of violence against a railroad carrier resulting in death, which makes him eligible for the death penalty. Investigators say Brown intentionally killed 23-year-old Iryna Zarutska during an attack on the LYNX Blue Line train on August 22nd. Zarutska boarded the train around 9:46 p.m. and sat in front of Brown, who then pulled out a knife and stabbed her 3 times from behind. Authorities say there was no prior interaction between the victim and the suspect before the attack occurred. Zarutska died at the scene, and police later found a pocket knife and a blood-soaked red shirt inside the train. Brown was arrested shortly after the attack at the next station, following tips from witnesses and video evidence. He already faced a federal count of committing an act causing death on a mass transportation system and a local murder charge. The federal indictment now elevates the case, making Brown eligible for capital punishment if convicted. Zarutska had fled Ukraine's war, settling in Charlotte with her family to start a new life in the U.S. She was taking English classes, working multiple jobs, and was known for helping neighbors and caring for animals. Her family says they are grateful for the indictment and hope for swift justice for Iryna. Brown's defense attorneys declined to comment following the new charges. Federal investigators say surveillance footage clearly shows the suspect carrying out the attack without provocation. If convicted, Brown could face life in prison or the federal death penalty.
I would like to address the tragedy that has not received nearly enough media attention, the brutal murder of Iryna Zarutska. Here are the facts that many outlets have shamefully and intentionally failed to report until President Trump drew attention to it. On August 22nd, Iryna Zarutska was stabbed to death on the rail system in Charlotte, North Carolina by a savage career criminal. This is a public transportation system that many in the area use every single day to go to school and work. Iryna was on the train that night traveling home from her job at a pizzeria, still in uniform from her shift. This beautiful, innocent 23-year-old young woman was a Ukrainian refugee who had recently fled her country for a chance at a safer life and a promising new beginning here in the United States of America. But tragically, a public transportation system in a major American city was more dangerous than the active war zone that she left. The president and the entire White House are praying for her family and friends during this unimaginably difficult time. But while we extend our thoughts and prayers, we must also seek justice for this crime and call attention to this heinous incident. Surveillance video of the killing was finally released to the public this past Friday. It shows the alleged killer, Decarlos Brown Jr., pull out a knife, get up from his seat behind Iryna, and prepare to thrust a blade into her neck before the released footage gets cut. This is pure evil on full display. The most enraging and unacceptable part of this story is that her death was entirely preventable. Decarlos Brown never should have been on that train that night. In fact, he should have been behind bars. Decarlos Brown has been charged with crimes no fewer than 14 times, dating back to 2011, including for armed robbery, felony larceny, breaking and entering, and shoplifting. Brown had previously served 5 years in prison for a robbery with a deadly weapon charge, and he had also forfeited bonds 3 different times, twice in 2014 and once in 2023. Despite all of this past documented criminal history, when Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris, released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing. Think about how crazy it is to ask a career criminal, someone who by definition repeatedly breaks the law, to just sign a written promise and come back again another day. This is madness. This monster should have been locked up, and Iryna should still be alive. But Democrat politicians, liberal judges, and weak prosecutors would rather virtue signal than lock up criminals and protect their communities. And perhaps most shamefully of all, the majority of the media, many outlets in this room, decided that her murder was not worth reporting on originally because it does not fit a preferred narrative. Many of the journalists in this room spilled plenty of ink trying to smear Daniel Penny for defending a subway car from a deranged lunatic in New York City, but none of those same reporters lift a finger to write stories about an actual murderer. Here's the truth that every American must know. Too many innocent people across the country continue to pay the price of the failed experiment known as cashless bail that has been championed by the Democrat Party for years. All the way back in 2020, North Carolina's then Democrat Governor Roy Cooper established a so-called task force for racial equity in criminal justice. Sounds nice, but it's not. That task force was co-authored by then Attorney General and current Democrat Governor Josh Stein. It recommended, quote, reimagining public safety to, quote, promote diversion and other alternatives to arrest. It also advised to de-emphasize some felony crimes, prioritize, quote, restorative justice, and eliminate cash bail. Democrats in North Carolina and nationwide are consumed with pushing a woke, soft-on-crime agenda, no matter how many innocent Americans suffer as a result. Instead of aggressively prosecuting and locking up violent criminals, the Democrat-backed cashless bail approach lets these criminals roam free in our country to offend again and again. These reckless policies have turned too many of American cities into hunting grounds for career criminals who mock our justice system, drain law enforcement resources, and wreak havoc on law-abiding citizens. Enough is enough, and that is why President Trump is doing everything in his power by taking action to undo these absurd policies. The president recently signed a powerful executive order directing the AG to submit a list of states and local jurisdictions with cashless bail policies so that the Trump administration may identify federal funds that are being provided to these states and can potentially be suspended or terminated. President Trump firmly believes that to maintain order in public safety, we must incarcerate individuals whose pending criminal charges or criminal history demonstrate a clear, ongoing risk to civil society. This is a common sense and sensible approach that the vast majority of Americans agree with, and it's time for the Democrat Party to get on board with what is right. When these criminals are caught, they must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and be sent to prison, where they can no longer terrorize our streets. This is the mandate the American people delivered to President Trump, and it's a mandate he intends to fulfill. Staying on the topic of public safety, new preliminary data released today by Customs and Border Protection in August shows that President Trump has delivered the most secure border in American history. For the fourth straight month, 0 illegal aliens were released into the United States by CBP. Nationwide encounters are down 93%, below the peak of the Biden administration. Border Patrol apprehensions on the southwest border in the entire month of August were less than what was apprehended in 4 days in August 2024 under the Biden administration. President Trump has ended disastrous Biden illegal alien invasion, and he sealed our border in record time, keeping this central promise he made to the American public.